Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. During the decline of the Qing dynasty, the imperial family grew to an astonishing number of 140,000 members. Most of these people relied on the protection of the court for their livelihoods, not needing to work themselves. Thanks to their status, they were ensured a life free from worries about food, shelter, and basic needs, living leisurely and enjoying a life without pressure. However, after the fall of the Qing dynasty, the economic foundation of the imperial family collapsed overnight. Many imperial members lacked practical skills, having spent years immersed in a life of luxury and unable to fend for themselves. As the saying goes, it is easy to go from simplicity to luxury, but it is extremely difficult to return from luxury to simplicity. When these people, who had once lived carefree lives, suddenly lost their stable income, they were faced with a harsh reality: what should they do in the future? How could they continue to support their daily lives? According to relevant historians, the Qing dynasty, as the last feudal monarchy in Chinese history, symbolized a life full of extravagance and ostentation for its royal members, reaching unimaginable extremes. In particular, Empress Dowager Cixi's lavish lifestyle shocked many. It wasn't just Empress Dowager Cixi, other royal relatives also lived lives of shocking luxury. The Qing dynasty had a unique system of hereditary titles for the imperial family. The highest rank was prince, and the lowest was Feng'an general. Under this system, the lower the rank, the smaller the annual salary. For example, the highest-ranking prince could receive generous rewards every year, including a salary of 10,000 taels of silver and 10,000 bushels of rice to meet daily expenses. In addition, princes owned large amounts of land and estates, enjoying various privileges, and lived worry-free and prosperous lives. Even the lowest rank, Feng'an general, would receive 110 taels of silver and 110 bushels of rice each year. Though the amounts were small, they were enough for an ordinary family to live comfortably for a year. Historical records show that the Qing dynasty had 10 ranks of nobility, arranged from highest to lowest. When these titles were passed on to the next generation, the rank would be reduced by one level. Although there was a descending pattern, the reduction was limited. At most, the rank could be reduced by 4 levels before it stopped. This ensured that each level had its unique value and significance. For example, if a prince's title was passed on to a child, the child would be titled Junjun, Prince of a County. If the title continued to be passed down, the descendants might become Bail, a noble title, Beizi, son of a noble, and finally, Zhenguogong. This level could not be reduced further. As a Zhenguogong, the yearly stipend would be 700 taels of silver and 700 bushels of rice, which ensured their basic needs. However, there is a special phenomenon worth noting. Some titles were never subject to reduction, remaining as stable as an iron rice bowl. For example, the Iron Hat Prince title remained unchanged through generations, with the same rank and corresponding salary, unaffected by time or inheritance. In addition, during the Qing dynasty, apart from those royal family members who held prominent titles, there were also some imperial relatives who did not hold such titles, while their status was still more privileged than that of commoners. The small annual allowance of silver and rice they received from the Qing government served merely as a symbolic gesture of support and care. Even though these relatives did not hold significant status, the Qing government still looked after them to some extent, ensuring they had a basic standard of living. Furthermore, compared to the Ming dynasty, the management of the imperial family in the Qing dynasty was somewhat different. However, from the broader social context, these royal descendants were still like parasites, depending on the vast system, living lives that were completely different from those of ordinary people and almost disconnected from society. However, on January 1, 1912, the Republic of China was officially declared established. Less than 2 months later, on February 12. The last emperor of the Qing dynasty was forced to issue his abdication edict, marking the end of the Qing dynasty, which had ruled China for centuries. With the fall of the Qing dynasty, the royal family members bid farewell to their fixed annual stipends and had to face the reality of making a living. The first typical example is that of Prince Drunken of the Qing dynasty, whose title was extremely important in the noble hierarchy, being one of the 8 iron-capped princes, and a hereditary title. It passed through 13 generations, with 17 princes having held this position. Yen Sun was the last person to inherit this title at the age of just 14, with the year frozen in 1910. However, not long after, the Qing Empire rapidly collapsed, and the wealth and privileges Yen Sun enjoyed vanished just as quickly, leaving him without any source of income overnight. At first, Yen Sun tried to cope with the financial hardship by selling his family's property. But soon, everything that could be sold had been sold, including even items from the family tomb. Unfortunately, this didn't improve his financial situation, it only led him into even deeper trouble. Eventually, he could no longer afford even the most basic daily expenses. In despair, Yen Sun had no choice but to rent a rickshaw and began pulling passengers. Although his title as Iron-Capped Prince initially attracted quite a bit of attention and business was fairly brisk at first, with some even jokingly calling him the ruler of the rickshaw industry, this attention and popularity didn't last. Ultimately, despite briefly enjoying some fame, he could not escape his dire circumstances. As the pressure of life grew, his situation worsened, and he died in poverty, unable to regain his former glory. The second typical example is Prince Eunuchs, who, as another lucky heir to the Iron-Capped Prince title, inherited this prestigious rank as early as 1902. He was passionate about life, particularly enjoying fine food, dressing meticulously, and constantly displaying his noble status. What made him even more unique was that he was one of the first in Beijing to try driving a car, becoming a fashionable figure of the time and leading a new trend. However, as time went on, the hardships of life gradually wore him down. He was forced to sell off treasured calligraphy and paintings, as well as jewelry, from his royal residence to cope with the increasing financial strain. To make ends meet, he even entered the world of opera, initially taking small, insignificant roles and sometimes helping to move props. In order to maintain a basic livelihood, he truly relied on his own hands, striving to become self-sufficient. Prince even mortgaged his beloved house to a friend named Bao Shiji, a member of the Catholic Church. Ultimately, Prince passed away in 1948 due to illness, ending his tumultuous life. The third example is Prince Zhao Xu, who inherited the title of prince in 1902. But by 1918, he made a difficult decision to transfer part of the family's ancestral hall to the Li family of Gaoyang. In order to raise funds, Zhao Xu also mortgaged part of the western garden of the Zheng family mansion and borrowed money from Bao Shiji, a member of the Catholic Church. However, fate was not kind to him. Someone in the family secretly sabotaged him, mortgaging the entire Zheng family mansion and secretly keeping the illicit funds for themselves. As a result, the entire Zheng family estate was trapped in a mortgaged situation, and Zhao Xu, unable to repay the debts, was forced to have the mansion publicly auctioned, an event that was truly sorrowful. This incident attracted widespread attention, but fortunately, a Chinese university stepped forward and generously lent Zhao Xu 150,000 yuan to help him pay off his debts. Even more fortunately, the university recognized his potential and invited him to serve on the board of directors, providing him with a relatively stable job. The Zheng family mansion was transformed into the university's new home, becoming a fertile ground for knowledge and bearing the hope for the future. Zhao Xu passed away in 1950, bringing his tumultuous life to an end. It is worth mentioning that in Tanying, Miyun District, Beijing, there were once many descendants of clansmen like Yen Sun. In that area, the 8 banners and banner people had made a living from the military for generations, relying on military pay to support their families. Since ancient times, they had been loyal to the Qing dynasty, serving the country according to the emperor's will, and rarely took on other professions. Many families relied on one member joining the military to receive military pay, which supported the household's living expenses. Most of the children in these families never had the opportunity for formal education, and only a few lucky ones could attend school, acquire a skill, and establish a foothold in society. However, after the fall of the Qing dynasty, the military pay disappeared. These people, who had once depended on it for survival, suddenly found that, apart from fighting wars, they had little to no other skills. Many descendants, lacking education and with single skills, struggled to find work. Even when they managed to get a job, it was often just to survive, leading to a difficult life where basic subsistence was hard to maintain. At that time, the once orderly Tanying gradually became dilapidated, turning into what people called a slum. After many families had exhausted their wealth, they even began dismantling the facilities within the camp, exchanging them for a little money to make ends meet. As life became increasingly difficult, some families had no choice but to send their children to other households, hoping to exchange them for a meager living allowance. The price of this exchange was shockingly low, sometimes cheaper than a small pig. During those hard times, cold and hunger claimed the lives of 600 to 700 people, a heartbreaking loss. According to relevant historians, in the late Qing dynasty, former royal family members, after shedding the titles of princes and imperial relatives, had to, like ordinary people, earn a living through their own efforts. At the same time, they were forced to abandon their former luxurious lifestyles, adapt to a new living environment, and replan their future paths. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.